what if I told you that there was an NBA player who physically couldn't miss game winners? An athlete who hit so many clutch shots, saved so many seasons, and delivered in so many impossible moments that he ended up winning more championships than Michael Jordan. That was Robert Horry, the man teammates trusted more than anyone when their season was on the line. Big Shot Bob won 7 NBA championships across 3 different teams, kept dynasties alive with his last second threes, and built a career on hitting the shots everyone else was too scared to take. So, how did one man become the most clutch player in history? And why, despite all those rings, is he still not in the Hall of Fame? To understand that, we have to go back to his rookie season in 1992. May 22nd, 1993. 45 seconds remain and the scores are tied in this win or go home game. The Houston Rockets and any hope of advancing past the Seattle Supersonics lie in these final possessions. But how did we even get here? Well, ever since 1986, when the Rockets last appeared in the NBA Finals, the franchise has been desperately trying to fight their way back and pair their superstar big man Hakeem Olajuwon with anyone who could help him win his first championship ring, a feat that the franchise had been failing at. However, despite completely missing out on the playoffs in their previous campaign, 2 huge changes had occurred. Houston had acquired a brand new head coach, former Rockets guard Rudy Tomjanovich, and been awarded the 11th pick in the 1992 draft, which they used on.
With the 11th pick in the 1992 NBA draft, the Houston Rockets select Robert Horry from University of Alabama.
Horry, a versatile two-way forward.
Big shot blocker. He even set a school record at Alabama, breaking Leon Douglas' mark with 121 blocks.
Who was crowned the High School Player of the Year in Alabama before winning 3 SEC championships at the University of Alabama.
Don't give a piss about that when it's high.
Was seemingly the ideal choice for Houston, because the Texas franchise had not only returned to the postseason, but had advanced to the second round after a hard-fought battle with the Los Angeles Clippers, resulting in this series all coming down to this.
With less than a minute to go, it's the Rockets with the ball.
Beautiful play by Hakeem, because what he did, he went straight up and then he used his body. He didn't try to block the shot, he just stayed there right in front of Kim and made him shoot a bad shot.
Same play. 2 seconds. They got to hurry now. 1. Down to goes, and Horry with just a hair left on that 24 seconds. Able to get his 18th point of the rookie from Alabama. Gives the Rockets a 2-point lead with 32 plus seconds to go.
To me, that was a welcome to the league moment. That the fact that the dream found me and I was able to knock down a little mid-range jumper at this stage of my career. It was like gaining confidence.
However, with Sonics forward Ricky Pierce eventually tying the game and Rockets guard Kenny Smith missing the game-winning attempt, Seattle would go on to decimate Houston during overtime. Yet, with 0.8 seconds remaining, the Houston Rockets still had one last chance to advance to the Western Conference Finals.
A lot of picks, they want to really get a switch or something. Uh-oh, you got Olajuwon open.
Olajuwon takes it. Seattle goes to Phoenix.
As Houston prepared for another ascent back to the finals, they began by acquiring the services of Florida State guard Sam Cassell with their 24th choice in the 1993 draft, and as the season progressed, everything was going to plan, except for Robert Horry.
On February 4th, Houston announced that they had traded second-year forward Robert Horry and forward Matt Bullard to the Detroit Pistons in exchange for former Spurs Sean Elliott.
I was the type of player that I was so intent on trying to make Vernon better, Kenny better, Otis better, Dream better, that I wasn't looking out for myself. And, at the end of the day, that's why they traded me, because my reluctance to shoot the ball. I was so reluctant to shoot the ball because I was just trying to get everybody else involved.
Desperately needing floor spacing for their dominant interior force, Olajuwon, or a selfless nature, simply didn't cut it for this new-look Rockets team. However, something shocking was about to happen.
I remember sitting there in Detroit and in the owner's box because we were getting ready to walk on the court, myself and Matt Bullard, who got traded with me. And it was like, wait. The trade hasn't gone through yet. I was literally in my uniform. We did shoot around.
The Rockets have rescinded the trade with the Detroit Pistons for Sean Elliott because Sean Elliott did not pass the physical exam.
Yeah, and when the trade fell through and Sean didn't pass his physical, I didn't care about that because all I cared about was getting back to Houston, getting back to my family, and getting back to being a basketball player.
Understanding he had been gifted a rare second chance with a true championship franchise, Robert got to work at correcting his outward-looking nature. In fact, after recording career-high performances such as dropping 30 points against the Sacramento Kings as his franchise rallied to hold the #1 seed in the Western Conference, Horry actually had to be told to shoot less. But the Rockets' hopes of hoisting the 1994 championship trophy weren't increased by their win-loss record. No, it was bolstered by this shocking announcement that occurred over the offseason.
Wow. I mean, how else can you sum up the sudden and shocking retirement of the NBA's greatest player, Michael Jordan, the world's most recognizable athlete, so despondent over the death of his father, has decided to call it quits.
Therefore, knowing the man who had guided his squad to the previous 3 championships was gone, Horry and Houston got to work. However, after demolishing the Portland Trailblazers in the first round, the Texas franchise faced a huge roadblock, as after fumbling an 18-point fourth quarter lead in Game 2 of their second round series against the Phoenix Suns,
Line in the paper after the loss number 2 said Choke City.
a failure that saw Arizona's NBA squad hold the commanding 2-0 lead, saw many begin to lose hope. But not Robert Horry. Whether it was pouring in bucket after bucket,
Horry from the corner. That's why I like Horry in the game. The other night they went with Herrera. Horry, you've got to play.
or highlighting his elite defensive talent. As the clock was winding down, the Rockets had kept their championship hopes alive. Yet, while being down in the series provided fuel, what former professional baseball player and now Phoenix Suns guard Danny Ainge did at the end of Game 3 only added more wood to their already hot fire.
Whimper for Phoenix. Olajuwon putting the cherry on the Sunday. 118 to 102.
Ainge just tried to rifle the ball in, and Ellie is mad. I wonder if he did Ainge do that on purpose?
However, there was little any Houston Rocket could do in retaliation, as Ainge's act appeared accidental, so any fist thrown would only see important Rocket players suspended. Therefore, they just waited for Game 4.
We just trying to lay Danny Ainge out. Every move we get, we're like hitting him every move we got.
Not only would the Rockets get vengeance towards Ainge and tie the series, but they would eventually move past the Suns in an epic Game 7 before destroying the Utah Jazz during the Western Conference Finals and punching their ticket to the championship round. But awaiting them was another franchise who had also been in a finals drought, the Patrick Ewing-led New York Knicks. A challenge only made more difficult for the Rockets starting forward due to complications with his daughter.
When we was playing the Knicks in the finals, and people don't know that I slept in the hospital after every game in Houston because we didn't know she was going to, be in this world. And I'm like, and how did you do it? I said, man, because I left that hospital knowing that she was going to live another day. And that gave me energy to go out on that court and deal with stuff, man.
While the precious time spent with his child gave Horry a boost, a flagrant foul from Knicks enforcer Anthony Mason in Game 4 only added to the long list of injuries Robert was facing. Combine this with New York pulling away during the two clubs' fifth battle, placing the Knicks just a single win away from the crown, everything seemed to be going downhill for Houston. Or was it? Game 6, 5.5 seconds remain. Houston holds a crucial 2-point cushion, but the Knicks have won final opportunity. Hit a 3 and walk away champions. Score a 2 and be gifted an extra 5 minutes to pursue the crown. Fail and Houston forces a final must-win Game 7 on their home court.
Still not be surprised to see John Starks try to win it from beyond the arc.
All right, Starks. Rockets do not want to foul. Starks for 3, came up short. And Jaco Battle indicating the game is over, and it will go to a 7th and decisive game on Wednesday.
Game 7.
For victory to even the series at 3. Rockets control it. Here's Maxwell off the dribble. Setting up Horry. Olajuwon. Back for Horry.
The Rockets sophomores' emphatic opening poster of Patrick Ewing set the tone for the remainder of this must-win matchup. A battle that Houston dominated from the tip right up until they were presented with the 1994 NBA Championship trophy.
For Houston Rockets are the 1993-94 NBA champions. And the city of Houston has won its first major championship. They have defeated the New York Knicks in 7.
But was this merely a fluke? Could the Rockets do it again and defend their championship? Find out after you subscribe. May 22nd, 1995, Western Conference Finals, Game 1. The now one-time champion and his squad are set to face the team who most believe will be moving on to the NBA Finals, the San Antonio Spurs. A belief only made stronger by the fact that Houston had struggled all season long.
They're the defending world champion. Nobody picked them to repeat. Nobody even picked them to get past, or very few, the first round of the playoffs.
Only finishing as the Western Conference's 6th seed and barely scraping into this penultimate round after 2 brutal series. To make matters worse, with 24.1 seconds remaining and down a single point in this opening battle, it seemed likely that San Antonio would be leaving victorious.
Houston with a chance to win another buzzer beater. Down 1.
And I would hold it and take the left shot as late as I possibly can, give myself a chance for the rebound.
Drexler fumbles it in the paint. Open man is Olajuwon.
Oh, shoot the ball. You gotta take that.
Robert Horry hits the jumper.
Horry's 1 of 5.
But you can't do it if he's not going to pay attention. Now, what you do have is David Robinson on the floor, and he should be able to touch the ball. Sean Elliott going. Clyde tries to dress it up, and Houston has won this ball.
Houston has come in here and won another clutch game on the road. They are the dream team of the playoffs of 1995.
An incredibly clutch shot that not only saw the Houston Rockets earn the opportunity to defend their crown against the Orlando Magic in the finals, but the player who saved them in Game 1 be given an iconic nickname.
Craig Kilborn was on ESPN talking about Big Shot Bob, you know, and that's how the name came about, because of the one freaking shot I made at the time. But yeah.
However, while Houston had rocketed to a 2-0 lead in the championship round, throughout Game 3, the Magic were pulling every trick out of their hat in an effort to regain control of the series. To make matters worse, with Horace Grant's late jump shot, the Rockets only held a single-point lead. But not if Big Shot Bob had anything to say about it.
6. Horry for 3. Robert Horry with the shot clock running down. Drills the three-pointer.
Robert Horry's game-saving 3 had placed the lead out of reach for the Orlando Magic, and what happened just days later was the cherry on top of the Rockets' improbable playoff run.
Final seconds. Anderson. The Houston Rockets have won their second consecutive NBA championship. They have swept the Orlando Magic.
Yet, it was after winning his second ring in just his 3rd year in the league where the career of Big Shot Bob would take an interesting turn. With the eventual crumbling of the potential Houston Rockets dynasty during the 1995-1996 season, their management looked to make some moves in an effort to extend their championship window, acquiring Charles Barkley from the Phoenix Suns in exchange for the player who saved them on countless occasions. A move that devastated Horry for multiple reasons. Firstly, Phoenix was now in rebuild mode, resulting in games often ending in embarrassing defeats, something that Big Shot Bob wasn't exactly used to.
And so we get beat by 20, 30, whatever it is. And so in practice, we next day, man, I triangle this, I triangle that. So I raised my hand. I'm like, yo, man, can we talk about our defense? Our defense sucks. And Danny Ainge was in charge. He's like, defense? You the worst defensive player on the team. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I literally stood up and did this. Wait one minute. Worst. I said, you got Wesley Person sitting over there. Danny Manning right there. And God rest his soul. Wayman Tisdale right here. You saying I'm the worst. Man, fuck you. He wasn't the coach then, right?
Then, to make things worse, with head coach Cotton Fitzsimmons retiring after a horrible 0-8 start, his top assistant, Danny Ainge, replaced him.
Danny's first game taking over was our game back in Houston. And of course, you want the fans to give you a little love. And I had been starting, so my first game back to Houston, I don't start.
A decision by Phoenix's front office, which had disastrous effects.
And then Danny becomes the head coach. I'm like, and then Danny Ainge had the good nerve to say, well, we traded away Michael Finley, my boy, Sam Cassell, you're my boy, AC Green, my boy, so you can have more time. I'm like, okay. So the next day we in with the Celtics. I start. I'm playing pretty damn good. I get a steal, hit a three, get a block shot. 3 minutes in, I'm like, Danny Manning come to get me? What? And so I said, why you sub me? He said, shut the fuck up and go sit down. I said, I'm walking. I said, did he just say what I think he said? So I went down and said, who you can talk to like that? He said, you. I said, man, you. And that's when I threw the towel in his face. I get suspended for 2 games. And then Danny Ainge called me after some and said, hey, I just want to let you know, I probably just won you another championship. I'm like, why? He says, because I just traded you to the Lakers. Click. I hung up the phone. In my car, was driving to LA. I didn't even know who I got traded for, who I was with. I didn't give a shit. I was out.
May 6, 1997, Los Angeles, with the acquisition of the man who Horry had eliminated only a few years ago in the finals, Shaquille O'Neal, had been transformed into a legitimate championship contending team. But standing between them and the finals was the Utah Jazz. So, Horry got to work.
Wide left, Van Exel straight away. Horry for 3, good again. The Lakers lighten them up. The left, up top, Horry for another 3. Scored again. Robert Horry. He'll go wide left to Horry. Another 3. Goodbye. Beals left. Back up top. Horry alone for 3. He makes another one. Robert Horry with 18 points on 6 3-pointers in this game. On Exel yo-yo. Cross court left. Horry open for 3. Another one. Unbelievable that you don't get out on a shooter that has hit 7 3-pointers.
While Big Shot Bob's 7 made threes all in a row would set an NBA record for consecutive made threes in a playoff game, his 21 points simply wasn't enough. In fact, the Lakers, despite having one of the NBA's biggest rising stars in Kobe Bryant and its most dominant big man in Shaq, followed this losing trend for the next 2 seasons. Therefore, Lakers management, seeing an opportunity to revolutionize their franchise, decided to make a shocking move. With the acquisition of 6-time championship-winning head coach Phil Jackson, the Los Angeles Lakers were now moved from playoff contenders to championship favorites. Combine this shift with the rearranging of Horry to come off the bench.
I was playing fourth quarter, we were counting on me. And that's all that mattered to me. I'm in there at the fourth quarter. And plus I looked at me for that I could be fresh by the end of the game so I could play. Now I had to play all these minutes.
And the Los Angeles Lakers, thanks to their new star triangle of Shaq, Kobe, and Phil, would go on to be crowned kings of the NBA in the 1999-2000 season. However, as they attempted to repeat and earn Horry his 4th championship ring, LA ran into a massive roadblock. The Allen Iverson-led Philadelphia 76ers. A squad that wasn't just going to roll over and allow the Lakers to do what they had done to every other franchise on their way to the mountaintop. With Allen Iverson, the 2001 MVP, guiding his franchise to hand Los Angeles their first playoff loss during Game 1 and steering his Sixers ship towards a 2-1 series lead in Game 3, perhaps LA's repeat dreams were over.
The Sixers are within one with just under 1 minute remaining, 4th quarter. So they get the ball out of Kobe Bryant's hands, but Robert Horry hits from downtown and then has something to say to fans in the crowd. That's his 3rd three.
But this huge 3 wasn't the only clutch contribution from the 3-time champ, because Rob's vital 4 made free throws in a row had ultimately saved his Lakers during Game 3 and saw them go on to do something incredible just days later.
Just looking to run it down. That's the way it's gone for the Lakers, who finish with a 15-1 run, the best all-time playoff winning percentage in the history of the leagues.
Congratulations to the world champion 2001 NBA Los Angeles Lakers.
Yet, LA's road to become the first team to win 3 titles back-to-back-to-back since the late 1960s was going to be a long and treacherous one, a journey that the Lakers may not even be able to complete. Throughout the 2001-2002 season, the contributions of Big Shot Bob, both as a player and a person, were crucial.
As a player, you said, okay, well, you're going to accept this role and do what's needed for this team. You know, my favorite line to say is, I don't make the product, I make the product better. I says, I go on the team, I figure out what's needed. From going to, when Shaq goes to free throws, going up to talk to him, to making him relax and, say, oh man, he's free throw, man. Yeah, you missed this week, it's big deal, trying to get his mind off it, going over to people like, Kobe and just saying, hey, Kobe, let someone else shoot the ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but as the Lakers began their postseason journey against the former 6-time champion Scottie Pippen and his Portland Trail Blazers, Oregon's NBA franchise was providing heavy resistance. As with 10.3 seconds left and down 2 points during Game 4, it seemed their loss total in the 2002 playoffs was about to match that of their previous run in just round 1. Or was it?
I always say is, well, Kobe never passed the ball, said, because he ain't like y'all. He liked me, so I got the ball.
Dishing off, Horry for 3, got it! The Los Angeles Lakers, for the second consecutive year, have swept the Portland Trail Blazers, and they have now knocked them out in 4 straight seasons and 5 of the last 6. An improbable comeback victory by the Lakers behind the 3-point shots by Kobe Bryant and the big one from Robert Horry.
The minute you had it in your hands, time is running out. What are you thinking?
Well, you don't think anything. That's the problem. If you think, you miss. I wasn't thinking just catch and shoot. And if I miss it, go to the boards and try to get the rebound. So I just wanted to catch it, and shoot it, and luckily it fell for me.
However, while some heroics during their initial series had seen the Lakers advance cleanly, as the final buzzer rang in Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals, it was unfortunately their rival, the Sacramento Kings, who held the advantage. To make matters worse, with 2 minutes remaining in the club's 4th battle, it was Sacramento who held the 6-point margin. Therefore, if Los Angeles doesn't begin a miraculous comeback right now, the Kings will be placing their opponent just 1 loss away from being sent home. Yet, the two franchises simply kept exchanging punches. Vlad Divac hit a jumper only for Kobe Bryant to match it. Shaquille O'Neal hit 2 free throws, which Divac tried to copy, but thanks to the King Center only knocking down 1, the Lakers' three-peat dreams all came down to this.
You think about as a kid, when you grow up a Lakers fan, and as you a Laker, you hear them chant Kobe's name, you hear them chant Shaq's name. You really never get that moment. Now you step on the stage, and the biggest moment, you knock down a shot, and everybody's chanting your name, man. It's the best feeling ever, man.
Make that shot, that's last shot. It's just like lucky shot, that's all. You don't need to have a skills or some, in that kind of situation. You just throw it, and if it goes in, goes in.
Vlad was saying that it was basically just a luck shot. That situation, you just have to throw it up. Was it luck, or was there more to it?
It wasn't no luck shot. I've been doing that for all my career, so he should know. He better read a paper or something.
However, some shade from Vlade wasn't enough to stop the Lakers from shining. The current defending champions would not only go on to advance to the championship round, but incredibly achieve their ultimate goal, a three-peat.
What about this guy right here, the man who saved the season? What are your thoughts about Robert Horry when he made that shot in Game 4?
Big shot, Rob. He knocks it down. The game's on the line. He gets his kickstand going. You can count it. That's buckets. He's not going to miss that.
What's going on with you? I mean, how do you become a big game player and seemingly do it time and time again?
It's by the gracious of God that he gave me the calmness to be out here, and the wills to be out here, because there's a lot of people out there, who don't have the ability to walk down the street, the ability to even see. So I'm just blessed that he gave me the chance to get out here and run up and down the court and make shots.
However, with the eventual fall of the Lakers dynasty in the following season, and desperate to move closer to his family who remained in Houston, Horry decided to make a massive move.
I signed a 1-year deal with the Spurs. Had an awful year because when you play for the Spurs and that system they had back then, if you try to play basketball, they're gonna look at you like you're crazy because they were so robotic. And from playing them that they were robotic. They would do A, B, C, D, and it was methodical. But I wasn't that type of player. If I see a back door, I'm cutting back door. And the whole team would stop and look like, what are you doing?
Yet, with the Lakers getting revenge against San Antonio in the 2004 playoffs, was this move by Horry really the right one? Well, for Rob, it was. Representing the Spurs allowed him to be around his daughter as she fought health complications, whilst also having the opportunity to be a part of a potential dynasty and being led by one of the greatest people in the NBA.
And I remember one time in 2005, Pop, this is what I love about Pop. Pop was like, she was like, I got a call like, yo, she's not gonna make it. You need to get home now. And I went to see her in the hospital. And Pop called me up and says, don't you come back until she's home. So she gets home, I come back. He was like, what the fuck you doing here? I'm like, she's home. She just got home. Go back and you come back in a week. Deal with your family. This is not important.
As his daughter regained her strength, Horry and the Spurs got back to their winning ways, dominating their way through the Western Conference and even managing to hold a commanding 2-0 lead against the defending champion Detroit Pistons in the finals. However, as Game 5 began, everything seemed to be going downhill for the San Antonio Spurs. With Detroit clawing their way back during Games 3 and 4, this fifth battle was going to be the most important game of the series. But with Horry struggling all throughout the first half, perhaps the Pistons were going to be leaving a single win away from back-to-back titles.
And I like to always put my locker in the corners during the playoffs, so no distraction even from my teammates, with guys listening to their music or talking on the phone. I was literally over there talking to myself, and I could see Bruce Bowen kind of look at me because I was like saying, "Yo, Rob, you suck tonight. You supposed to be big shot Bob. You fucking terrible." I'm telling myself that. I said, "You gotta get going. If y'all don't win this game, you might lose." And Bruce is looking at me like, "This dude going crazy, right?"
As Big Shot Bob emerged from their locker room, he got to work during the third quarter.
He's gonna drive. He's gonna lay it off for Horry. Three-pointer on the way. Got it with 1:30
Tony Parker had no points, nor did Ginobili in that third quarter, and then Horry drops in another bomb. So he ends the third with a 3, starts the fourth with a tray, and the Spurs are up by 4.
But with Detroit still hanging around, fans began to let Horry know about it.
And Eminem was behind the bench, said, "You won't be getting number 6 tonight, buddy."
Fueled by the impending doom of losing and trash-talking rappers, Rob just kept cooking.
Horry with Rasheed Wallace coming out. Tested, and he puts it up over him. Chauncey made the perfect pass. Ginobili lays one up short, but Horry is there to follow. Now move or take Parker off the dribble. 34. Horry. Robert Horry. Doesn't matter what uniform he wears, what arena it's in. Robert Horry.
Placing the Spurs with 16.9 seconds remaining and the scores tied in what many saw as big shot Bob time.
If Horry sets his screen, watch out, Horry on a step back. 6 seconds. He's not setting the screen. Ginobili drives all the way and it's blocked underneath. And the rebound taken by Wallace, but he has no timeout to take. There's nothing, and the clock runs out.
Overtime.
Kicks it back out. Horry drives all the way in and with a left hand with a dunk, and he gets fouled as well.
But with Horry's left shoulder in immense pain and his squad down 2 with just 9.4 seconds remaining, could Robert actually be the player to save his team?
Here's Ginobili. Oh, there's a Horry for 3. Guy is off the charts. And you've got Chauncey Billups. Now they're bringing Chauncey Billups. He was trying to come up the middle. And here is Hamilton now. Hamilton with an elbow into the face of Parker. Can't make the shot. Bowen comes away with it. And the San Antonio Spurs can go home and just win 1 out of 2 and capture a 3rd NBA championship in 7 seasons.
An insane shot, which, despite a small blunder in Game 6, saw the Spurs go on to achieve the near impossible.
The 3rd time in 7 seasons, the San Antonio Spurs are the NBA champions.
But one question remained. San Antonio, who had won in 1999, 2003, and now 2005, had failed every single time to defend their title. So would this time be different? May 22nd, 2006, Game 7, win or go home. Tim Duncan has 41 points. Manu Ginobili just nailed a massive 3, gifting San Antonio a 3-point cushion with 32.2 seconds remaining. All signs point towards the Spurs advancing to the Western Conference Finals, so long as they can stop the Mavericks from scoring one last time.
We up 3. We says, don't foul. If they get a layup, fine, take it out.
Argentina, 21 points for Ginobili, 19 in the second half. Nowitzki goes right at Bowen, and the foul. So Nowitzki to the line with a chance to tie the game. Nowitzki 12 of 13 at the line. He now has 35 points, and the game is tied at 104.
While Ginobili had blundered their opportunity to stop Dallas, 2 facts remained. They still had one final chance to steal victory and advance, and Big Shot Bob was ready to save his franchise once again.
And deciding game of this Western Conference semifinal series. Down to 5, down to 4, down to 3. Ginobili squeezes through. Duncan on the follow. The shot blocked.
Overtime. The Dirk Nowitzki-led Dallas Mavericks, hungry to win their first NBA championship, were simply too formidable to stop. A massive 15-7 overtime blunder saw the Spurs' hopes of defending their crown be crushed.
It was probably one of the most disappointing losses I've ever been a part of. The team was very hurt by it because we felt like everything's set up for us to go back and win another championship. So we just said, hey, think about it, realize what happened, and then build on it.
Yet, having retained their core for the 2006-2007 season and motivated to rectify their embarrassing failure,
listening is important. Then maybe we don't foul Nowitzki the last play of the game.
San Antonio seemed to be primed to win their 4th or 7th championship trophy, but their first hurdle, the Denver Nuggets, were proving far more formidable than expected. With just 35.5 seconds remaining in Game 4, the Spurs had no choice but to score here. With the heroics of the man who simply didn't miss game-winning or saving shots, and the rest of the Spurs dissecting each and every defense that they faced on their 2007 title run, San Antonio had done it. The Spurs core had won their 4th championship since 1999, and Robert Horry had become the one and only player in NBA history to have won multiple championships with multiple teams.
I'm in a category by myself.
Yet, Big Shot Bob's incredible 7-time championship winning career, more than Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, really anyone outside of Bill Russell or anyone who played with Bill Russell, has never truly received the recognition it deserves.
I want to speak up for Robert Horry to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He is truly a legendary player. He made so many clutch shots. He's got 7 rings to prove it. This is where he belongs.